Welcome to the Library Brown Bag series. It's nice to see all of you. Before you do anything else, before you think about anything else, turn off your cell phone. Dolores cries easily, and I don't want to perform a cry, so let's take care of that. We want to thank First Alabama Bank for all the wonderful things that they're doing for us, and they're going to do next year and the next and the next. You listening, Chris? Yeah. So before we get started, as a point of pride, we have in Sylacauga one of the finest kindergarten programs at the First United Methodist Church that was started years ago, 1947, I think, and it's been going strong. Ms. Claude Smith set that thing up, and it's still going, and they were operating last time I looked when I passed this morning. So they've been doing a great job here all these years. And as a point of pride, I was able to work there for 10 years, and that was the greatest experience of my life, seeing what Christian education can do for a community. So that's wonderful. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is that today we have one of the smartest children of the Smiths. His name is Jim. He graduated from Sylacauga High School. He was in a good territory. Two of his brothers were valedictorians. One was salutatorian. And Jim, I don't know what you were. You were just doing it. But every one of them left here, went on to college, got their undergraduate degree, got their master's, and their doctorates. So we got one family with 4 of the boys with their doctorate. Jim, stand and say something intelligent for me. Jim does fly his own planes. He has a couple. I don't know what he's in today, whether he's in the jet or the helicopter or what have you. But we're proud of you, and your mother and your father and family is remembered real well. When I woke up this morning, I was hoping it would not rain, and I hope the sun would be shining. And then Cheryl told me, don't worry about it. They're going to come here to Dolores. They don't care what it is. So here we are. And Dolores, as you know, is from Reading, Pennsylvania. And I've already given her one of the Luden cough drops that Luden is famous for. And it's a thrill to have her. She has made an impact on storytelling. She wins all sorts of awards. She has all sorts of tapes. And it's just a thrill for any of us to say that we saw and heard Dolores Hydock. So Dolores, I want you to come, and of course she does sing, she does dance, but what she does best is make us feel good about being alive. Dolores Hydock.
Thank you, Dr. Ted. One time we'll get a Cajun dance going here, all right? But not today, not today. And I promise you, out of gratitude for you coming here and being such wonderful supporters and family members, really, I promise you I will never come up here and sing. That is my gift to you today. Thank you so much for coming out on this day. I think it's going to turn into a really beautiful day. I know there's some other folks who drove from Jefferson County down here. I don't know how many of you had a long drive to get here, but the world is beautiful out there today. Those pear trees and plum trees and the daffodils are almost done, but they're still cheery and yellow out there. It is such a gorgeous day. So thank you for making time to share some of this gorgeous day with me today. It's always a delight to be here. You know, it's interesting how the series always has a title, and Dr. Shirley always sends me an email and says, well, here's our theme for this time. And the theme this time is Turn Back Time. And I think that's interesting because what we're about to do is turn time ahead, not turn time back. We're right around the corner from daylight savings time, and we are right around the corner from springtime, official springtime. And I don't know about any of you, but every now and then, especially when Easter is early, like it is now, and Easter bumps right up against the first day of spring, there's this impulse to open the doors and open the windows and wipe out those cobwebs of winter and get ready for spring. Now, I don't know about you, but when that impulse takes hold of my brain, usually if I just go lie down for a while, it'll go away. But sometimes I decide, okay, today's the day I'm going to go tackle that bedroom closet, or today's the day I'm going to go down to the basement. And every now and then, if you do that, you stumble across some object that you forgot you even had. And then that object takes you back in time. And suddenly, oh, that's the Christmas Uncle Joe came home from the Navy with the black eye patch and the Japanese wife. And you're back there again. Or, oh, that's the pea soup green Hudson Hornet we had with the back seat the size of Rhode Island. And we went out to that picnic. And so these objects that we encounter take us back in time. And so that's what I have for you today is 2 stories about 2 objects that took me back in time. The first one was just a piece of paper. I don't know about you, I have lots and lots of big plastic containers full of pieces of paper that someday my great-grandchildren to have children. Wait a minute. Someday somebody is going to say, oh my goodness, look at this newspaper article, isn't it? No, that's never going to happen. Why am I keeping that? I don't know. But I have reviews of plays I've been in, and I have letters from people and greeting cards. And I came across this piece of paper. It was an invitation. It's from a few years ago when people sent a paper invitation to things. And it was an invitation to a big number high school reunion. How many of you have gone back to a big number high school reunion? Yeah. Oh, and you lived through it. Okay. Well, I don't know about you. As Dr. Ted said, I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania. That's where I went to high school. I moved right out of college, moved to Alabama, lived in Birmingham, 853 miles away from where I went to high school. And so I have not been back to a reunion since our 11th. We did not get it together in time to have a 10th reunion. But we were going to have this big number reunion, and the invitation came, and, I thought, oh, I hadn't been back to Reading in a really long time, and, oh, it'll be an adventure. What the heck? So I signed up to go. And that is why on the afternoon of a November Friday, several years ago, I was driving my rental car into the parking lot of the West Reading Best Western Hotel. It was a little strange to be staying in a hotel in my own hometown, but I don't have any family there anymore. I don't really know anybody who lives there anymore. In fact, I wasn't even sure that I would recognize anybody who would be at the reunion that night. But because of traffic on the beltway around Baltimore Airport and everything else, it was late when I got to the hotel. I just had time to unpack, change my clothes, pick up my car keys, and head out to this bar and grill, this kind of tavern where we were going to have the event. It was going to be drinks in the lounge before, to start with. And then there was a sit-down dinner in the adjacent dining room. And then anybody could just stay and talk afterwards who wanted to stay and talk. Well, I found this place. It was way out in this new development, way out on the bypass, a part of town I had never been to before. But I found this brown cedar shingled building. I pulled into the parking lot. There were already several cars there. Oh, good. I'm not the first one here. I parked the car, checked my lipstick in the rearview mirror, gave myself a pep talk. Dolores, you live 853 miles from here. You do not have any family here anymore. You don't know anybody who lives here anymore. If they are mean to you, if this is horrible in any of the 1,000 ways this could be horrible, you do not have to stay. You can just leave. Grocery stores around here stay open until 10 o'clock at night. You can get yourself a couple of pints of medicinal Haagen-Dazs if you need to. I picked up the yearbook I brought with me to help me remember names. Oh, look at these pictures. The boys on the basketball team are wearing shorts that are short, and the cheerleader skirts come down to their knees. That's how big the big number was. The gravel of the parking lot crunched under the heels of my shoes as I headed to the front door. There was someone coming the other direction toward me, a man maybe about my age. I didn't recognize him, though. There were 204 kids in my graduating class. How was I supposed to remember everybody after all these years? But I decided to take a chance. Hi, I see you made it here too, huh? Found this place way out here in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, I hope so. I own it. Not a classmate, after all. He held open the front door for me. I walked inside. My eyes took a minute to adjust to the dim light of the lounge when I went in there. When I finally was able to see, I could see there were groups of people in 3s and 4s holding their copies of the yearbook, pointing and groaning. I went over to the sign-in table, found my name tag with the 1-inch square black and white copy of my yearbook photo stapled to one corner. Mike DeAngelo, reunion committee chair, came up to greet me. Mike DeAngelo is gorgeous. Hand, big, beautiful smile. Little skinny Mike DeAngelo, who could hotwire anything with a motor in it from 6th grade on and now has a very successful high-end German auto repair shop. Hi, Mike. Wow, this was going to be an adventure. Everybody seemed to be holding a glass of something, so I went over to the refreshments table. My Krusty Morelli was standing there, eyeing the tray of hors d'oeuvres. Krusty Morelli, defensive tackle from our terrible high school football team. He looked me up and down, squinted at my name tag, said, "Hey, Hydock, you're looking good. I never would have recognized you." He gestured toward the empty seat next to him. I thought, Krusty Morelli inviting me to sit next to him? Wow. I sat there in my circle of Krusty Morelli, Pete Tortorici, Frank Lashinsky, and Carl the Crusher Cipero, 4 jocks who never once spoke to me in high school. I mean, in high school, I was so unathletic. I was always the last person picked for any kind of team in gym class, and I would usually spend most of the gym class period sitting on the visitor's bench there doing my algebra homework. But here I was listening to these 4 guys do killer impersonations of the vice principal, the football coach, the school janitor, tell hilarious stories from detention where they spent more time in high school than I did in 4 years of English class. I realized how much I missed back then by being hopelessly unathletic and turning my homework in on time. About 60 of us showed up. Out of 204, 60, that's not terrible. But none of my friends were there. I mean, Dory was in Spanish class with me, and Elise was in Glee Club, but none of the girls I ate lunch with every day, none of the kids I hung out with in the school newspaper office after class, neither Deirdre nor Carol, the 2 girls who were my very best friends in 4 years of high school, not the boy I was so crazy about and dated the entirety of senior year. I don't know why they weren't there. I'd really wanted to see Deirdre and Carol and Dennis, especially Dennis. You know, in the movies, when the guy and girl meet cute and they can't stand each other at first and they argue about everything and you know they're going to end up together in the end. That was Dennis and me. We'd gone to school together since 1st grade, couldn't stand each other, never spoke to each other unless we were arguing about something. We argued about everything: religion, politics, education, the meaning of life. Dennis was a brilliant underachiever who smoked 2 packs of Marlboros a day, was already world-weary and cynical by age 17, and drove like a maniac in his death trap of a white Chevy Corvair. But he was sitting by himself in the cafeteria on an evening of a Friday night dance when I came into the caf to get some napkins for the refreshments table and saw him sitting there, and somehow we started talking, arguing, I'm sure. A conversation that lasted all through the rest of that Friday night dance, a conversation that lasted all through the 14-block walk back to my house, and all through the next couple of hours as we sat there on the front porch steps of my house. You know, it never once occurred to me that the front steps of our house were directly below the bedroom of my parents, who slept with the window open and who heard the entirety of our 2-hour conversation and the entirety of the less verbal but no less heated event that happened after that. The next day, my mother discussed with me the architecture of our house. Now, I don't always tell that part of this story when I tell this story, but that was for Dr. Ted, who asked me to tell about my first kiss. And I was pretty sure he wasn't talking about 6th grade when Michael Sinaki lost a bet and came up to me in the schoolyard and planted a big wet smooch on my cheek. No. First kiss was Dennis. Dennis and I dated all through senior year, broke up right before senior prom. I don't remember why. We both went to the prom with other people. I'll show him, I'll show her. And then we reconnected briefly after freshman year of college, but it only works out in the movies. I heard that he had quit college, joined the Marines, ended up living in Maine or Massachusetts or some state on an M that's really cold. I don't know. But I really wanted to see him at that reunion. I really wanted him to see me. But he wasn't there. Or Deirdre, or Carol. Oh, well, I don't know why. They weren't there. So I wandered up to another group, 3 or 4 people. They were all standing there talking about the new high school that they built over on the bypass and how our old high school building, closed now for years, was maybe going to be renovated into a senior living facility. And we were standing there talking about, what might be a name for the new facility. Our best idea was Lost Our Faculty's Towers. And suddenly they made the announcement that dinner was served and we should all go into the adjacent dining room and find a table. So I went in there. I managed to find a spot at a little table for 3 with Donna DeFazio and Jake Werner. Jake Werner, I had noticed, had made a beeline for that table as soon as he saw Donna DeFazio sit there, because Jake Werner had had his eye on Donna DeFazio all night long. Though, truth be told, pretty much every guy in that room had had his eye on Donna DeFazio all night long. I figured she was used to it by now. I mean, in high school, when there would be a Friday night dance in the gym, the guys would stand there. When Donna walked in, high heels clicking on that hardwood floor, skirt short as a carpenter's apron, cracking that juicy fruit so loud you could hear it all the way down at the visiting team's basketball goal. I remember my friends Deirdre and Carol and I would be there at the refreshments table trying to guess which of the chaperones would be the first one brave enough to go up and tell her she had to get rid of the gum. Hey, do you remember the movie? It was called Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Remember that movie? Some 1980s, I think. And that movie had partly live actors and partly animated characters. And one of the animated characters was Jessica Rabbit. Remember Jessica Rabbit? She was this va-va-voom femme fatale, long red hair. She was voiced by Kathleen Turner. And Jessica Rabbit had a great line in that movie. She said, "I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way." Well, back then, my friends Deirdre and Carol and I didn't know if Donna DeFazio was bad, but she sure was drawn that way. Of course, now, all these years later, she looked fabulous. When we got out of high school, she went to cosmetology school, became a beautician. Now she owns a chain of salons and day spas and has her own line of skincare products. She looked 15 years younger than any of the rest of us. I said that to her. Oh, she said, I've had work. Eyes, lips, tummy tush. The neck is the latest. I recommend my surgeon to all of my clients, so he gives me a good deal. These, 40% off retail. I'm his best advertising. Jake, I said, Jake, you're looking pretty good too, that thick head of hair you still got. Oh, this, he says, lifting it up. It's a rug. I had chemotherapy 2 years ago. It never grew back, but you want to look your best for the ladies. Big wink to Donna DeFazio, who flashes a big diamond ring on her left hand as she picks up her water glass. Later, in the ladies' room, she tells me that the diamond is real. She bought it for herself, and it's useful in warding off unwanted attention. Like Jake Werner, I say. She rolls her eyes. Honey, that ship is never going to sail. The dining room, dinner is finished. 2 of the committee members get up to a microphone at the front of the room. Is this on? Is this on? They've organized a trivia quiz. We all turn our chairs to the front. Question number 1. Who was the homecoming queen? Oh, everybody remembers that. Sharon Martin. Who could forget Sharon Martin? She was so gorgeous. That long, swingy, blonde hair. How did she get her hair to do that? You know, back then, our hairstyling products were not mousses and sprays and sculpting gel. We had empty orange juice can rollers and dippity-doo. Question number 2. Who was the girls' PE teacher? Oh, we call that out in unison. Miss Propanowitz. Miss Propanowitz, who was built like a linebacker and clearly felt it was not just her responsibility to make us physically stronger, but to strengthen our moral fiber too. Because if you had gym class on a Friday when there was going to be a school dance in the gym that evening, right before the class period ended, she would line us girls up on the bleachers, look at us over those half glasses and say, ladies, remember this evening when you're dancing with a boy, leave room between you for your guardian angels. And it was always Donna DeFazio she was looking at when she said it. Well, we do pretty well on the quiz. We remember Sharon Martin. We remember Miss Propanowitz. We remember the name of the school newspaper, Hillside Echoes. We remember the name of the alternative school newspaper that actually managed to put out 2 issues before the principal shut it down. Voices from the Valley, a voice, not an echo. Most of us can't remember where we left our car keys, but we remember those things. Well, then another committee member gets up to the microphone, reads off a long list of names. Classmates who died. More than you'd think. More than you'd like to think. Then they announce the date of the next reunion, give us a big save the date. Everybody applauds the committee. People start gathering up coats and spouses and heading home. I didn't have any place to go except the hotel, so I decided I'd stick around. A few of us did. 9 of us stayed. All women, as it turns out. All gathered around this big wooden table with a long bench on either side of it. I look around that table and I think, I don't know any of these women. I never had a class with any of them. I never was in an extracurricular activity with any of them. And it wasn't just our during high school life that was different. Our after high school life was different too. I moved away. I went to school in Connecticut, moved 853 miles away to Birmingham, Alabama. They all stayed in and around Reading. They all built their homes and families and lives and careers right there in and around Reading. They were the home team. I was just a visitor, just there for one game. But they were so nice to me. You live where? Alabama? That's what, like 1,000 miles away? And you came to the reunion? Oh, they should have given you a prize. They insisted I sit in the middle of the bench on one side of the table so I could be part of all the conversations going on around me. Conversations about families and kids and spouses and in-laws and vacations and doctor's appointments and retirement. Same conversations I could have had with any of my friends back in Birmingham. Karen Antonelli tells all of us how her husband got her a kickboxing set for her last birthday because she told him she wanted more exercise. A kickboxing set, she says. The only exercise I ever got out of that kickboxing set was hauling it up to the attic, 2 months later, dragging it down to the cellar, a few months after that, lugging it out to the garage, and finally slinging it into the trunk of the car so I could take it to Goodwill. We all laugh. We know exactly what she means. No matter how similar or different our life experience has been to this point, that circle of life has spun us all around and spit us out at pretty much the same place. Older, tireder, kids grown, parents gone, friends gone, eyesight definitely gone, hair and stamina and mostly illusions gone. In other words, able to be kinder to each other and ourselves than we ever were in high school. The owner, the guy I met in the parking lot, sticks his head around the corner. Last call. Big hugs all around. We promise we'll stay in touch. Promise we'll all show up for the next even bigger number reunion. The gravel of the parking lot crunches under the heels of my shoes as I head back to my car. I am so glad I came to the reunion. I'm so glad I didn't know anybody there, or I'd have wasted the whole evening talking to them, and I'd have missed this chance to go back to high school and for one glorious night, sit on the bench with the home team. So that piece of paper went back in the plastic box, and I'll think about that again another time. And then I wandered over the part of the basement where I have the bread machine, the rice cooker, the fondue set that I haven't used in 20 years. And there was another kitchen item there that took me back in time, probably 20 years. Back to a time, when I was 20 years younger, still full of optimism and possibility. And it was a time when frequently, start of the year, especially springtime, as things start getting lighter and brighter, I would start thinking, I need to eat right. Need to eat healthier, more consciously, more carefully. Now, just like with the spring cleaning impulse, usually if that would happen, I would just go lie down on the sofa with a box of Godiva chocolates. It would go away. But at 1 year, all those years ago, I thought, okay, fine, I'm tired I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going all the way. I'm going to eat organically. Now, I want you to cast your mind back 20 years. Organic was not mainstream. You could not buy organic carrots at Walmart 20 years ago like you can now. No, organic was kind of out there on the fringe. But there was an article in the Birmingham News. That's how long ago it was. There was a Birmingham News. And the article said there was this organic farm in Shelby County that was going to make it not just possible, they were going to make it easy for me to eat healthier, lower on the food chain, pesticide-free, for just a small fee, just a few $100s. I could become a member, a gold share member of this organic farm. And then every week I could go and pick up my gold shares of whatever the farm had to offer that week. little crispy green apples, purple bell peppers, carrots, kale, whatever God, compost, and crop rotation made available that week. It was going to fill my dinner table with colorful, fiber-filled, organic variety. Now, yes, of course, I could have just gone to the farmer's market every week. But again, 20 years ago, there was not a farmer's market in every neighborhood every week. Back then, farmer's market meant going to Finley Avenue. How many of you been to the Finley Avenue? Yeah, that was the farmer's market, this Disneyland of packed up produce, wholesale produce. And, besides, that was going to require a healthy eating decision every Saturday morning. This way, I was prepaid. I was pre-committed to a summertime, free from the temptations of fast food hamburgers and the disappointments of grocery store tomatoes. So I called up this organic farm. I gave them my MasterCard number. I was a Gold Share member. An email came giving me the time and location of my pickup spot. Wednesday mornings, 11 to 11:15. The field behind the parking lot, behind the AmSouth Bank on Highway 119. The first Wednesday of my Gold Share season, I got to the field behind the parking lot, behind the AmSouth Bank on Highway 119 about 11:02. I pulled in. There were 3 other vehicles already parked there, each containing what looked like a single silent driver. I went over to the maroon Dodge Caravan with the smoky windows. Window rolled down. There was a tired-looking young man sitting at the driver's seat there, 3 little boys playing in the back seat. I leaned in. Are you here for the vegetables? I felt like I should be wearing a fedora and trench coat. Yeah, I said, this is a really great program. We've been doing it. Daddy, he punched me. The 3 little boys started fighting in the back seat. The window rolled up. I backed away. The woman in the dark green BMW did not look up from her magazine, so I went over to the woman in the white Volvo. The window rolled down. I leaned in. You here for the vegetables? Yeah. Hi, she said. My name is Liz. This is my first time to try this. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, I said. It feels like a drug drop. Well, yeah, she said, except for the fact that we're middle-aged women driving Volvos. She had a point. Another car pulled into the parking lot, and the woman in the green BMW recognized the driver, called her by name. They were veterans. They knew each other from last year. Volvo, Liz, and I converged on the other 2. Hey, how does this work? Do you have to take whatever they give you, or can you just pick out what you want? Oh, I don't want any red beets. Oh, me neither. I hate red beets. No, red beets are delicious. You just roast them in a little olive oil. They're terrific. Yeah, well, you can have my radishes. Oh, I can't eat radishes. They come up on me. This was so long ago, none of us had any idea what you were supposed to do with kale. The man in the maroon Dodge Caravan did not join our conversation. Eleanor, one of the veterans, said, oh, he's not unfriendly. He just has his 3 little boys with him. And the other women said, in unison, bless his heart. Mary, the other veteran, said, she still had chopped up bell peppers and onions in her freezer from last year. It starts to pile up by the end of the season. By last August, my husband was sneaking out to Dairy Queen for chili dogs. Recognized the red and white striped sides of the pickup truck that was heading our way. Here he comes, she said. The truck pulled into the field, stopped, parked. A young man got out of the driver's side, maybe mid-20s, long blonde ponytail, T-shirt that said, got tofu? He propped up the red and white striped sides of the truck, revealing shelves full of cardboard boxes full of vegetables and fruits and herbs. An older man got out of the passenger side with a clipboard, checked off our names, issued each of us a wax-coated cardboard box. Remember to bring your box with you every week. I passed on my Gold Shares of dill, rutabagas, turnip greens, took my Gold Shares of green beans, baby lettuces, carrots. Oh, I felt healthier already. As I loaded that wax-coated cardboard box into the back seat of my car, all those vitamins and antioxidants were seeping into my bloodstream by osmosis. Hey, my good intentions alone were worth a 10-point drop in my bad cholesterol. Home again, I dumped the box of vegetables out on the kitchen counter. A little black bug sneaked out from underneath a green bean. Without thinking, I squashed it. Then I remembered, my produce is pesticide-free. Maybe I'm supposed to refrain from brute force, too. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with my gold share of bugs. Invite them to stay for dinner? Escort them outside? I don't know, this organic thing was going to take a little getting used to. All that afternoon, I looked forward to preparing my first organic vegetable dinner. Then about 4:30, my friend Tracy called. Hey, a bunch of us are going out for pizza after work. You want to join us? The next night, I had a dance class, just time for a quick sandwich beforehand. The night after that, I was doing a story program at a dinner event. And so it went. And week after week, the gold shares piled up, untouched, in the refrigerator. The pile got bigger and bigger and bigger until it reached some critical mass and started getting smaller and smaller, smaller. As the vegetables liquefied and turned to mush, I would pour out the crisper drawer, then reload the refrigerator with the next installment of corn, cauliflower, crowder peas. What was I thinking? I'm not a cook. I did not have time for all the baking, braising, steaming, sautéing, mashing, smashing that real food requires. I just needed to let my Gold Share membership expire. Let my refrigerator go back to its original purpose as a large, unattractive storage bin for AA batteries and half-empty bottles of nail polish. Kind of felt like Zsa Zsa Gabor. Someone asked her one time what she had in her refrigerator. She said, half a salami and a corsage. But then, with 6 weeks left in my Gold Share season, my then 84-year-old mother decided she was going to leave her lifetime home in Pennsylvania and move to Birmingham to live closer to me. She didn't want to live with me. She wanted to live near me. And I was so excited because not only was my wonderful mom going to be in Birmingham, but I knew she was going to bring with her magic pan. That's what we called it. She didn't call it that. We called it that, the magic pan. It was this huge, heavy aluminum frying pan that she got as a wedding gift when she married my dad in 1943. It was officially called a chicken fryer. It had this heavy lid and this wooden handle with a long metal screw down the handle so you could undo the handle, put it in the oven, wouldn't burn up. Great design. She made absolutely everything in that pan. And we always called it the magic pan because of the folk tale. You know the folk tale. There's one in every culture. A stranger comes to the village. Some local woman gives him something to eat, a place to come in out of the rain. In exchange for her hospitality, he gives her a magic pan. A kettle, a skillet, a pot, whatever she makes in that magic pan, always delicious, always way more than enough. Well, in our house, that magic pan was that huge, heavy aluminum skillet, because no matter what mother put in there, what came out was incredibly delicious. And no matter if we asked if our friends could stay over for supper, my dad would bring somebody home from work for dinner, no matter how many people that pan had to feed, there was always way more than enough. In fact, the pan was enormous, enormous. I mean, I remember when I was, 8, 9 years old, helping my mother with the dishes. It would take all of my little 9-year-old muscles to wrestle that thing into the drawer under the oven where it was stored. It was huge. And now, that magic pan was coming to Birmingham. Well, about 3 weeks before she actually made the move, I went up to Reading to help her do last-minute packing. Okay, how many of you have downsized from a place where you've lived a long time? Yeah, you have a lot of stuff to get rid of, don't you? Yeah. Well, I was amazed when I got up there how much Mother had already gotten rid of. Sofa bed to the Goodwill, clothing to the women's homeless shelter, canned goods, the church food pantry. Mother, I said, I can't believe how easily you have let go of so much stuff. Well, she said, memories are what's important, and they're portable. They don't have to be packed, but kitchen things do. Come here and help me with this. She gave me a box. We go in the kitchen. I start loading it up with, saucepans, lids, a percolator, a small frying pan. I said, oh, the one thing I really hate you got rid of was the magic pan. Oh, man, the memories of the food you made in that. I guess it was just too big and heavy for cooking for just one person, huh? She said, what pan are you talking about? I said, the magic pan, the one you cooked everything in. She said, the one in your hand. The pan in my hand was 10 inches in diameter, 2 inches deep, with a wooden handle, with a metal. This is the pan? This is the pan you made all that. How did you make all that food in this little pan? She winked at me. Magic, I guess. And 3 weeks later, she and the pan were in town. Well, the first Wednesday after she'd moved to Birmingham, I went to go pick up my gold shares. As I loaded that wax-coated cardboard box into the back seat of my car, I knew exactly where I was going next. I headed straight to Mother's house. I said, Mother, how'd you like to help me out with some eggplant, some red beets, some green beans, some bell peppers? Before she could protest, it was too much. I said, just use what you want. I'll come back and get the rest later. And then I drove away, knowing that the magic pan was in town and its mojo was working for me. Sure enough, 3 days later, I left her house with a stack of little individual plastic containers of pickled red beet salad, eggplant parmesan, green bean, and red bell pepper saute. The next gold share installment was transformed into chicken barley vegetable soup, pot roast with little carrots and onions and potatoes, baked butternut squash and apple casserole. Every week, I would drive up, deliver a wax-coated cardboard box full of vegetables, and drive away with a stack of individual plastic containers of dinner for the rest of the week. It was my own personal version of Meals on Wheels. To add to our supply of produce, we started to play the grocery game. Every Wednesday morning, Mother would scour the supermarket ads in the newspaper and write out a big chart comparing and contrasting who had what on special. If she'd had a computer, it would have been an Excel spreadsheet, but no computers for her. I don't want to get addicted to those chat rooms. So she would write it all out longhand. And then Wednesday afternoons, we'd go on our supermarket scavenger hunt. Bananas, 39 cents a pound at Piggly Wiggly. Ground sirloin, $1.98 at Bruno's. Cashews, $2.59 a can at Winn-Dixie. Once we scored a perfect trifecta. Hunt's tomato ketchup, buy one bottle, get one free, plus a 50-cent off coupon, doubled every day, and the 5% off senior discount on Wednesdays at Publix. Yes, they owed us money. It was kind of like those old MasterCard ads. I don't know if you remember them. Money saved on groceries, driving all over town for the weekly specials, $10. Money spent on gasoline, driving all over town for the weekly specials, $20. The fun of spending the afternoon driving around talking and laughing with my mom. Priceless. Well, we did not re-enlist for the gold shares the next season. We just added the Findlay Avenue Farmers Market to our supermarket scavenger hunt. And besides, what I learned that summer is that when it comes to good eating, to food that nourishes not just the body, but the soul, organic can only take you so far. What you really need is a little magic on your side. And that is the story I told a few years after all that happened at the annual conference of the Cookware Manufacturers Association of America. Who knew there was an an association of cookware manufacturers, but there is president, chief marketing manager, chief financial officer of Cuisinart, Calphalon, KitchenAid. Anybody who makes cookware in America and he sells it in the American market is a part of that organization. And that year, they were having their annual conference in Orlando, Florida. 3 days of industry experts and panel discussions and an outline of all the new government regulations. And after dinner one evening, me. Well, it got to be that evening. We all gathered in the ballroom. It was a little bit bigger than this room, big round tables. You know, you've been at these banquets before. And so beautiful dinner. Then I got up. I told about my mother's magic pan. And I told them that now I had the magic pan and the magic was all cooked out of it. And if their manufacturing facilities could put the magic back in, I'd like to know about it. Well, you know, I finished, then they had announcements about the next day's schedule, and everybody starts filing out of the ballroom. And this very handsome, very distinguished-looking gentleman walked up to me and introduced himself as the president of Lodge Manufacturing Company in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And he told me that it was all well and good for me to be all nostalgic about my mother's aluminum frying pan. But I could not say I had truly moved heart and soul to the South until I had a cast iron skillet. I knew he was right. I knew he was right. In fact, I had toyed with the idea of getting a cast iron skillet ever since I first moved to Birmingham, right out of college. You know, grew up in Pennsylvania, college in Connecticut, came to Birmingham, and wow, were things different. Oh, the weather was really different. The pace of things was different. The food was really different. Not rye bread, pumpernickel bread, Italian bread with the chewy. No, there were angel biscuits. Coffee, fly away, angel. I tell you, nothing my mother cooked ever flew away. It was earthbound. It didn't just fill you up, it kept you grounded. Gave a little 8-year-old kid some traction on icy sidewalks. And the rest of what my mother cooked in that magic pan was spicy, savory, chewy, crunchy, crispy. The food here was soft and pillowy, except the cornbread. The cornbread was gritty and earthy with a crispy crust, and it was made in something that was the opposite of soft and pillowy. It was made in a cast iron skillet. Never mind the Second Amendment. Here's a weapon to defend your home. Well, I moved here. I started to make the acquaintance of all of this fabulous new Southern cuisine. Texas caviar and lady peas and congealed salads and Mississippi mud cake and that bright neon green pepper jelly on top of a quivering block of cream cheese with Ritz crackers. Wow. But mostly, I began to investigate cornbread. Every possible variation of it I could find. The dense pale yellow squares at the Whistle Stop Cafe, the thin corn sticks with the crispy crust at John's Restaurant, downtown Birmingham, thin wedges, mostly crust, made from my friend's cousin's grandmother's recipe. Well, it didn't take long for me to realize I was never, ever, ever gonna learn how to make turnip greens. But maybe I could learn to make cornbread. In fact, I might be able to get Southern enough that I would fix cornbread. But it meant one thing. I had to get a cast iron skillet. But boy, cast iron skillet just seemed so demanding. There are all these rules about how to season it and how to wash it and how to dry it and how to heat it up and how to cool it down and what you could cook in it, what you couldn't cook in it. I mean, I heard somebody say once getting a new cast iron skillet was like getting a newborn baby and a puppy at the same time. So I just kept putting it off. But when the president of large manufacturing company tells you it's time, it's time. So I came home from that conference. I went straight to my local hardware store, not the big box store, the real hardware store. You may have one here in Silicaca. We're lucky enough to still have them in Jefferson County. Those worn wooden floors, the display cases full of pocket knives, and right in the center, the big display of Lodge cast iron cookware. And right there, and right then, I did it. I bought the gateway drug into cast iron cooking, the 10-inch skillet. The tag said it was pre-seasoned. I sure hope that was true. I got it home. I put it there in the cabinet, there on the shelf. Got busy. It was October, then November, then December, storytelling, holidays, no time to bake or cook. So that skillet just sat there. Just sat there. Tough, sturdy, indestructible. Right there next to all the stainless steel and Pyrex pots and pans and casserole dishes, it looked like Mr. T had moved into Barbie's dream house. It got to be the last week of December, my favorite week of the whole year, because that's the week when all the holiday festivities are finished, all the Christmas storytelling is done. It's a week when I just get to do whatever I want to do. And what I wanted to do that week, that year, was fix cornbread. And that is why, on the morning of December 30th of that year, I was standing there in the baking needs aisle of the Winn-Dixie. That's what the sign said, baking needs. I looked at that sign. I said, boy, baking needs. What I need is somebody to teach me how to bake. Can you find that in the baking needs aisle? Apparently you can. Because I was standing there staring at shelf after shelf after shelf full of flours and meals and mixes. And this woman walked past me, pushing her buggy past me. She had on this kind of puffy green parka, tightly curled gray hair. She went past me, stopped, took pity on me. Said, honey, what are you trying to fix? I said, cornbread. I want to learn to make real Southern cornbread. She looked at me a long time, assessing, I'm sure, just how hopeless a hopeless case I actually was. Correctly guessing I didn't have a clue what I was doing. She parked her buggy off to one side, came over, took out of my hands the sack of organic stone ground mill yellow cornmeal and said, honey, you don't want this. She put it back on the shelf, picked up a pillowy white sack of Martha White self-rising buttermilk cornbread mix. Honey, she said, this is what you want. White Lily's good too, but this is a good place to start. She flipped it over, scanned the recipe on the back, said, this uses 1 egg. I use 2. I like mine rich. And you go get you a little carton of buttermilk. Now, you're going to need to use a little more buttermilk than the amount of sweet milk in the recipe, but it'll be better. And I never put oil in mine. I just use a big old spoonful of mayonnaise. She handed me the sack, reached into her purse, took out a pen. At the bottom of her grocery list, she wrote buttermilk, mayonnaise, 2 eggs, underlined the 2, ripped it off, handed it to me, said, whenever my son invites me to his house for supper, he always wants me to bring the cornbread, so I guess it's pretty good. As she wheeled away, I saw that she had in her buggy 3 giant plastic produce sacks full of turnip greens and seasoned and canned, not scooped out of the steam table from the deli section of the store. No, these were raw, unvarnished, buck-naked turnip greens. ready to be wrestled into a good luck meal for New Year's Day. If I had any doubt about her qualifications as a Southern cook, that did it. I knew I had to follow her instructions to the letter. So I got home with my Martha White buttermilk self-rising cornmeal mix. I got home with my little container of buttermilk. Eggs I had at home. Mayonnaise I had at home. But what exactly is a big old spoonful? I looked in my kitchen drawer. I have lots of measuring spoons. Teaspoon, half a teaspoon, eighth of a teaspoon, tablespoon, half a tablespoon. Nothing said big old spoon. I just took a wild guess, made my first batch of cornbread. It turned out okay. The main thing I learned is that a 10-inch skillet makes a lot of cornbread. And so I just fed the birds what I couldn't finish, and then I went back to my hardware store and I bought me a 6-inch cast iron skillet. And on the way home, I stopped at the library and picked up a book full of recipes for cornbread. And for the next 6 days, I made cornbread. I made yellow cornbread, white cornbread, blue and yellow cornbread. I put jalapeno peppers in it and cheddar cheese and whole kernel corn. I used self-rising flour and stone ground meal. I made it thick and dense and a little bit sweet. Heresy, I know, but I had to try it. I made it thin and crispy, mostly crushed from my friend's cousin's grandmother's recipe. I left greasy fingerprints on the pages of library cookbooks, and I learned that when they say the handle gets hot, they I had to reach way back to 10th grade geometry class to figure out how to adjust the amount of ingredients for a different size skillet. Let's see, this recipe is for a 10-inch skillet. If I want to make it in a 6-inch skillet, let's see, what is the formula for the volume of a cylinder? Pi r squared times the height. So a 6-inch skillet is about 1/3 the volume of a 10-inch skillet, and I know how to measure 1/3 of a cup of buttermilk, but how do you measure 1/3 of 2 eggs? Well, in the years now since all of that started, I have made countless batches of cornbread. And though some have turned out better than others, I have to admit, I will never truly master the art of fixing real Southern cornbread. It is just not in my DNA. And you cannot learn it from a library book. You have to be a sweaty little kid with red clay dirt on the seat of your britches, kneeling backwards in a ladder-back chair next to the kitchen table, watching Mama and them scoop out a big old spoonful of mayonnaise to learn how it's done. But I keep trying. And in the meantime, I found a great recipe for a cast iron brownie. A rich, dense circle of brownie made entirely in a cast iron skillet, which makes it doubly nutritious because you get a healthy dose of iron along with the brain-enhancing antioxidants of the chocolate. Recipe I only make in the 10-inch skillet because it makes exactly enough for one person. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've been so dear. You are so, I love being here. Thank you so much for coming. If you are not already on my shameless self-promotion email list, it's a way for me to let you know of things coming up. There's lots of stuff coming up in the new year, and so you can sign up for that over there. Thank you again for being here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Can you think of any better way to close out this wonderful series that we've had than with Dolores Hydock? Again, thank you. Thank you all so much for coming today. Before you get away, raise your hand if you came from outside of Sylacauga today, if you drove in. Gosh, thank you all so much for making the trip to be here. Thank you. And I also want to thank First Bank. Mr. Chris, please send our thanks always to First Bank of Alabama. Hickory Street Cafe has kept us full with great cookies. Dr. Shirley Spears with the Comer Library Foundation in the back. Thank you, Dr. Spears, for always putting together a great series. And we are going to take a little break, but be looking for your brochure in the mail sometime around the end of summertime, the early fall. Thank you all so much for being here. Don't forget, Miss Dolores has got some goodies over here. Thank you all. Have a great, great week.